Listen to me. I want to talk to you about something that happens in so many homes and that almost nobody has the courage to say out loud. You know that strange feeling, don't you? When you look at the person sleeping next to you and you ask yourself, where did it go? That connection, that electricity, that warmth you once shared. I'm talking about how relationships transform slowly without us noticing until one day we find ourselves in the middle of something we barely recognize. What began as deep affection and respect can turn into something else entirely: irritation, emptiness, sometimes even bitterness. This is not a romantic mystery. There are concrete, human reasons why this happens, and I want to talk in particular about why women feel their feelings toward their partners change with the passing of the years. Listen carefully, because if you understand what I am about to tell you, you may find the tools to transform your relationship into something that nourishes both of you again. You may reconnect with what brought you together in the first place. Now, let's go deeper together. Think about this first truth. Time moves forward, and we change with it. One of the deepest reasons why women begin to feel this growing distance from their husbands lies in something none of us can stop: the relentless march of the years. Do you remember when you first met? Everything felt electric, didn't it? Fresh, intoxicating, full of promise. In those early moments, you saw each other through rose-colored glasses. Every little habit seemed adorable. Every flaw seemed just another part of their unique charm. You were fueled by dreams, by an almost naive faith that affection alone could carry you through anything life threw at you. But reality has a way of intruding, doesn't it? As time passes, those beautiful dreams start colliding with everyday existence. Obligations multiply: external pressures, careers, money worries, raising children. These things begin to dominate the space where spontaneity once lived. The relationship that once seemed to flow effortlessly now demands conscious work. And here is what we so often overlook. We all transform as we move through life. Our experiences reshape us. Our struggles and our victories shape who we become. Here is the painful truth: couples do not always grow together. Some find their bond deepening through shared growth. Others discover they are moving in opposite directions, unable to bridge the widening gap between who they both once were. Maybe you admired his determination, his spontaneity, the way he could laugh when things got heavy. Maybe those little habits, forgetting where he put his keys, telling the same stories again and again, seemed charming, even sweet. But look what time does. That ambition you once found attractive now feels like he's married to his job instead of to you. That easygoing attitude now looks like he's avoiding responsibility. Those quirky habits have become a constant source of irritation. Because you see, as we mature, what we need from love itself transforms. What we expect from our partners changes. At the start of your marriage, maybe you accepted his difficulty expressing himself, his reluctance to share the housework, his emotional absence. But as you grew, you began to expect something more substantial. Not just help with chores, but true emotional presence, real partnership. Many women reach a point where they simply can no longer tolerate the unresolved tensions and small irritations they once let slide. They hunger for a relationship where they feel truly seen, genuinely heard, deeply valued. And something else is happening too. Society itself has changed, hasn't it? Previous generations taught women to accept certain relationship dynamics. The man makes the decisions, the woman carries the emotional and domestic weight. But perspectives have evolved. Women are re-evaluating what they truly want from their lives and questioning whether their marriages align with those authentic desires. When they feel stuck, unheard, emotionally starved, that sense of disconnection becomes a chasm. So you see, time itself is not the enemy. It is how we navigate time together that determines everything. Couples who actively nurture their connection, who adapt together, who grow in harmony, keep something precious. But those who ignore the gradual shifts in what they need, who they are becoming, how they want to feel, often find themselves staring across an emotional distance that feels impossible to cross. Now, let me address something else that creates enormous tension: the shifting of roles and the deep imbalance over who carries what. As women mature, they become increasingly aware of just how lopsided things have become. Maybe at the start, the responsibilities felt reasonably shared. With time, many women find themselves carrying a disproportionately heavy load physically and emotionally. Women today are asked to do everything at once: career advancement, financial management, raising children, overseeing their education, running the household, guaranteeing everyone's emotional stability. Even in modern partnerships, where men participate more than previous generations, there is still often this underlying assumption that she will be the primary caretaker, the organizer, the emotional anchor everyone leans on. This invisible work, what we call emotional labor, includes everything from remembering everyone's birthdays and coordinating medical appointments to mediating conflicts between siblings and managing the family's entire social life. Sometimes this imbalance becomes even more obvious as children grow and gain independence. You might assume that parenting would get lighter, but often a mother's role simply changes shape. Instead of meeting basic needs, she now navigates their emotional complexities, their academic choices, their career planning, often while simultaneously caring for aging parents. It is a demanding profession. If the husband has remained relatively passive throughout the marriage, the contrast becomes stark. She begins to feel a deep exhaustion and frustration that are hard to put into words. Resentment often grows from this place when a woman feels she is carrying everything alone while her husband remains oblivious, absent. Sometimes men assume that because they contribute financially, they've done their part, completely missing the enormous mental and emotional load their wives carry. Gradually, this creates a painful disconnection. A woman who once felt intimately close to her husband begins to feel essentially alone, navigating life by herself in what is supposed to be a partnership. The emotional weight of holding everything together, the home, the children, the work, often the extended family, becomes overwhelming. When her partner is absent from these responsibilities, a woman begins to feel invisible, unappreciated, fundamentally undervalued. The weight of all this slowly erodes whatever emotional connection she once felt, making her feel like a stranger to her own husband. If this remains unresolved, the damage can become permanent. Women who feel unsupported often withdraw emotionally, pouring themselves instead into their children, their careers, their own interests. They disconnect from the marital bond. In the most painful cases, a woman realizes she actually feels happier when her husband is not around. A clear signal that something has broken at the center. This evolving dynamic explains why so many women, particularly in long marriages, find themselves questioning their happiness and fulfillment. It underlines why open communication matters so much, why shared responsibility is not optional, why mutual appreciation is essential. Both partners must feel valued and supported. Without that balance, resentment accumulates silently, constantly, until what was once a loving marriage collapses under the weight of unspoken expectations and unrecognized sacrifices. Let me talk now about something many couples struggle to discuss openly: intimacy, particularly sexual intimacy. This is often what holds a marriage together at its core, not just the physical connection, but the emotional and psychological bond that reinforces closeness, trust, mutual affection. But watch what happens as time passes. Various factors conspire to diminish intimacy, leaving one or both partners unsatisfied, disconnected, sometimes rejected. For many women, the physiological changes that accompany aging, hormonal shifts, health conditions, menopause, can dramatically affect their desire for physical closeness. Declining estrogen can reduce libido, cause physical discomfort, create persistent fatigue. Add to this external stressors, work demands, caregiving responsibilities, emotional burdens, and a woman's interest in physical intimacy can diminish significantly. Meanwhile, men go through their own changes. Some face declining testosterone, erectile difficulties, a reduced capacity to sustain intimacy the way they once did. Others become emotionally distant, consumed by work, or simply taking their partner's presence for granted, inadvertently neglecting their wife's emotional and physical needs. When a husband stops expressing affection through small gestures, meaningful conversations, physical closeness, the wife begins to feel emotionally isolated. As intimacy fades, a woman may begin to feel unwanted, unappreciated, disconnected from her husband. When her emotional and physical needs go unmet for long stretches, she may feel frustration, loneliness, even resentment. These emotions gradually erode the very foundation of love and companionship the marriage was built on. And here is what many don't realize. The absence of intimacy does not stay confined to the bedroom. It seeps into everything. The absence of affectionate touch, playful connection, shared vulnerable moments creates an emotional void that leaves both partners feeling like strangers. Without honest communication and a genuine effort to reignite that spark, the relationship continues to suffer, creating greater distance and dissatisfaction. Ultimately, sustaining intimacy requires ongoing effort, understanding, a willingness to adapt to each other's changing needs. Honest conversations about desires, concerns, emotional well-being can help couples navigate these inevitable challenges. Seeking professional guidance, exploring new ways of connecting, or simply making a conscious effort to show appreciation and affection. These things can restore the emotional and physical closeness that strengthens a marriage. Now, I want to address something that silently destroys many marriages: unresolved conflict and the breakdown of communication. One of the most common reasons marriages begin to crumble is when communication fails, especially after the relationship settles into a comfortable stability. At the start, both partners typically make an effort to connect, discuss their feelings, resolve conflicts, but as the years accumulate and the initial excitement dissolves, couples often fall into routines empty of meaningful conversation. When communication falters, small problems that initially seemed insignificant are left unresolved. These unresolved tensions, whether daily worries, unmet emotional needs, or disagreements, pile up silently in the background, growing into bigger problems harder to ignore. For women in particular, feeling unheard or misunderstood cuts deep. They bring their worries, frustrations, emotional needs to their partners, only to feel dismissed or invalidated. Over time, this lack of validation creates emotional detachment as they withdraw into themselves to protect against further disappointment. The feeling of not being seen or heard is compounded when a partner shows indifference or fails to acknowledge the emotional weight of what is being shared. When this becomes a pattern, the emotional connection that once bound the couple begins to erode, creating space for dissatisfaction and frustration. This emotional disengagement shows up in various ways. Initially, it might appear as a subtle disinterest in everyday conversations or fewer attempts to connect personally. Over time, it deepens into growing resentment and bitterness, particularly when unresolved issues remain unspoken. Problems that might seem minor, disagreements about chores or how to spend time, grow in importance when repeatedly ignored or minimized. As unresolved conflicts pile up, trust erodes, and emotional disconnection becomes pronounced. The range of unresolved issues varies widely: financial tension, differing parenting philosophies, deeper violations like infidelity. Often these issues are never fully discussed or resolved because the couple falls into patterns of avoidance or denial. They become afraid to raise difficult topics, fearing more conflict, or they convince themselves the problem will somehow resolve itself. But this avoidance only deepens the gap as the unresolved issue remains in the background, constantly eroding the foundation of the relationship. For women in particular, the lack of emotional fulfillment feels like a growing void. When emotional needs go unmet, They feel disconnected and alone even when physically present with their partner. Over time, this distance evolves into indifference or even contempt. The partner who once brought joy and comfort now seems a source of frustration or resentment. This emotional chasm can become so wide that the couple struggles to remember how they once communicated openly and affectionately. The longer unresolved conflicts persist without being addressed, the harder it becomes to bridge the gap. What began as a small disagreement can eventually turn into a profound emotional divide, leaving both partners wondering whether the relationship can ever be repaired. In these situations, recognize that communication is not just about speaking. It is about listening, validating each other's feelings, working together towards solutions for the problems threatening the relationship. Without that effort, the relationship can become a source of pain rather than support and comfort. Let me talk now about something profound that happens, particularly to women, as they age: personal growth and self-awareness. As individuals mature, they often embark on a profound and transformative journey of self-discovery. This is particularly evident in women. Over time, life's challenges, milestones, and transitions act as catalysts for understanding themselves more fully. Women in particular may find themselves in periods of deep reflection and reevaluation as they navigate the later stages of life. For many, this period is marked by intense introspection, often triggered by life-changing events or subtle shifts in perspective. One key transition that provokes this self-reflection is the passage from actively raising children to experiencing the empty nest. For years, women pour enormous energy into nurturing and supporting their children, creating a strong sense of purpose and fulfillment. But as children mature and gain independence, many women face the question, what comes next for me? The absence of the daily responsibilities of motherhood can feel simultaneously liberating and unsettling. It opens space for personal reflection on identity beyond being a mother, a wife, a caretaker. As the focus on children diminishes, women may feel compelled to reevaluate their own goals, dreams, desires that have been set aside for years. Other life changes, career transitions, lifestyle shifts, new interests can also powerfully trigger personal growth. The realization that life is finite becomes more apparent as one approaches midlife, sparking a desire to seek fulfillment and purpose beyond what has traditionally defined them. This desire for change manifests in many ways: pursuing new career paths, exploring long-forgotten hobbies or passions. Through this process, women often discover new strengths, talents, interests they never had the time or opportunity to explore before. In the midst of this personal development, many women begin to reevaluate their relationships. They ask themselves whether they are truly fulfilled in their marriage, in their partnership, especially if they've spent significant parts of their lives prioritizing the needs of others, children, spouse. This shift in focus can bring clarity, revealing desires for independence, adventure, self-realization that were once suppressed. As they look within, they may feel the call of a life uniquely their own, where they are not defined exclusively by their role in the family or the relationship. The realization of having sacrificed so much of themselves for others can lead to disillusionment. For women who have devoted time and energy to their partner's well-being, there may be growing frustration if they feel their spouse hasn't undergone similar growth or hasn't invested in the relationship. They may begin to feel their partner has remained stagnant, leaving them to struggle with evolving needs and desires alone. This creates emotional distance, especially when communication and mutual support are lacking. Ultimately, this period of personal growth is about rediscovering oneself, confronting hidden desires, embracing a new purpose. Women may feel the impulse to free themselves from the limits of their past roles and explore new possibilities. It is a moment of reinvention and liberation where women have the opportunity to cultivate happiness independent of external expectations or social norms. This transformative process, though challenging, can lead to a richer, more fulfilling life, deeply aligned with their true self and their aspirations. Now, let me address something delicate but important. Changes in physical appearance and attraction. Attraction within a relationship goes far deeper than physical appearance. It is rooted in emotional, psychological, and relational connections. However, as women age, they often undergo significant physical changes that affect their sense of self and their perceptions of attractiveness. These might include weight changes, appearing wrinkles, a changing body shape, transforming skin texture, among other signs of aging. While these physical alterations are entirely natural parts of the aging process, they can trigger feelings of insecurity and dissatisfaction. For many women, these changes lead to a shift in how they see themselves and struggling with self-esteem. While coming to terms with these new realities is incredibly common. They may begin to feel less attractive to their partner, especially if they perceive that the affection and admiration their spouse once showed has diminished over time. When a woman no longer feels physically desirable or appreciated as she once was, this profoundly affects her sense of self-worth. Moreover, women may discover that their husbands, too, have experienced changes in their levels of affection, attention, or physical attraction. When a husband no longer expresses the same appreciation or warmth he did when they were younger, an emotional distance forms. This lack of attention can manifest subtly. Fewer compliments, less physical closeness, fewer intimate moments. The absence of these affirmations can leave a woman feeling disconnected and emotionally isolated. And this emotional detachment can intensify feelings of not being attractive, leading her to question not only her physical appearance, but also her worth within the relationship. When a woman perceives a lack of interest or affection from her partner, it may bring deep insecurities to the surface about her worthiness of love and admiration. These concerns, though rooted in physical change, are often compounded by a lack of emotional support and validation from a partner who may himself be preoccupied with his own changes or life challenges. As a result, the dynamics of attraction within the relationship can shift, making it a complex and sometimes difficult issue to navigate. In these situations, the emotional and psychological effects of aging on attraction are just as important as the physical changes, and understanding the delicate balance of affection, communication, and self-esteem becomes essential for maintaining a healthy, supportive relationship. Let me talk now about something that puts enormous pressure on many marriages: financial stress and lifestyle pressures. Financial tension is one of the most significant and pervasive factors putting immense pressure on a marriage. As couples age, they inevitably confront the growing responsibility of securing their financial future, particularly regarding retirement savings. The looming prospect of future financial insecurity, combined with the strain of managing day-to-day expenses, can lead to heightened stress and anxiety. On top of this, many couples face the added weight of managing debt, whether student loans, mortgages, or credit card balances, and the rising costs of raising children, which can sometimes feel like an insurmountable financial obstacle. When financial goals and priorities are not aligned within a marriage, the differences can lead to a widening gap. It is not uncommon for couples to struggle with disagreements over how money should be spent, saved, or invested. One partner might want to live in the present, prioritizing experiences or material things, while the other focuses on long-term goals like saving for retirement or buying a home. This misalignment can cause tension and frustration, as each partner may feel misunderstood or ignored in their own priorities. For women in particular, who often take on the bulk of the family's financial responsibilities, this tension can deepen. Many women find themselves managing family budgets, balancing bills, ensuring there's enough money to meet the needs of children, aging parents, and the household. If they feel their partner isn't contributing equally to the family's financial stability, whether through lack of income or failing to actively participate in managing the money, it can lead to feelings of resentment and frustration. They may feel as though the weight of financial pressures falls disproportionately on their shoulders, creating an imbalance in the relationship that is difficult to overcome. This financial gap can also extend to the emotional toll that financial stress demands. Women who already carry the burden of managing finances may experience emotional exhaustion while balancing their professional lives, domestic duties, and the mental weight of worrying about the family's financial well-being. Over time, these accumulated stressors can manifest as feelings of isolation and breakdowns in communication, as both partners struggle to address their needs and desires, ultimately undermining the relationship. Furthermore, the strain of financial pressures can exacerbate other underlying issues in the relationship. As couples argue over financial matters, they may begin to focus more on their differences and less on the emotional connection that originally brought them together. This shift can lead to a lack of intimacy, decreased trust, feelings of resentment, ultimately jeopardizing the very stability of the marriage. Without open, honest conversations and a shared vision for their financial future, the stress of managing finances can unfortunately become a major source of division rather than a tool for building a stronger, more cohesive partnership. Now, let me address something fundamental: the need for respect and equality. One of the core emotional needs for women in marriage is respect. As women age, they often gain a greater awareness of their own worth and of how they are treated by their spouses. This awareness becomes particularly pronounced in the later stages of life when the accumulated experiences of marriage, career, and personal growth come to the forefront. For many women, the desire to feel respected and valued in their marriage becomes even more crucial as they navigate the complexities of aging, health changes, evolving personal goals. Respect in this context goes beyond mere courtesy or surface-level appreciation. It includes acknowledging their efforts, recognizing their individuality, validating their emotional needs and desires. In marriage, this means truly listening to their opinions, honoring their decisions, valuing their contributions, whether managing the household, raising children, or building a career. When women feel their perspectives and contributions are taken for granted or dismissed, it can lead to a growing sense of emotional distance and disconnection. As they age, many women also reflect on their lives and evaluate their sense of fulfillment in the marriage. They begin to recognize the importance of equality, where both partners contribute and support each other, not only in terms of financial stability or physical tasks, but also in an emotional and mental partnership. If a woman perceives a lack of respect from her husband or feels her role is undervalued, it can lead to feelings of frustration, resentment, and ultimately emotional withdrawal. This emotional distance is often accompanied by a desire for deeper connection and understanding. If the marital dynamic has shifted over time, with a wife feeling less seen or appreciated, it can become difficult for her to continue investing emotionally in the relationship. The desire for mutual respect and equality is not only important for emotional well-being, but also for fostering intimacy, trust, and communication in the marriage. Furthermore, as women age, they may develop heightened sensitivity to social attitudes toward aging and gender roles. They may feel even more strongly that they deserve respect for the life experiences they bring, and may seek romantic, family, social relationships that honor their worth and their contributions. At this stage of life, both partners must recognize and appreciate the unique strengths and challenges that come with aging and work together to ensure mutual respect and equality remain central to their bond. When respect and equality are present, they nurture an environment of emotional support where both partners feel safe, valued, and connected. This foundation strengthens the marriage and allows for continued growth and affection, ensuring both partners can thrive in the later stages of their lives secure in the knowledge that their emotional needs are being met and respected. Finally, let me talk about something that often emerges powerfully as women age: the desire for change and new experiences. As women mature, the desire for change and new experiences can become a powerful force in their lives. Over the years, they may have devoted much of their energy to raising children, building careers, managing the responsibilities of daily life. However, as time passes and as children grow or independence is gained, they often find themselves longing for something more, something beyond the routines that have defined much of their adult existence. This desire for change can take many forms, from a longing for freedom and adventure to a deep need for personal growth and exploration. Women may feel an intense pull toward travel, learning new skills, or simply stepping outside their comfort zone to embrace the unfamiliar. These feelings often emerge from the growing realization that life is finite and there is so much more to live beyond the familiar. Women may begin to question their current situation and wonder whether they are truly living in line with their passions and aspirations. They may crave the excitement of spontaneous adventures, the thrill of learning something new, or the satisfaction of accomplishing something entirely different from past achievements. As they reflect on the passage of time, the notion of time slipping away can spark an urgent desire to make changes, to embrace opportunities they might have postponed or neglected. However, this desire for new experiences can also bring tension into marriages, particularly if their husbands don't share or don't understand these aspirations. If a woman's partner is resistant to change or prefers to maintain the status quo, she may feel trapped in a life that no longer fulfills her. This disconnection can create emotional distance, as her desires for adventure or personal growth may be seen as a disruption to the established relationship dynamic. In some cases, this lack of support or understanding can lead women to feel that their marriages are holding them back from realizing their full potential, leaving them with feelings of frustration, loneliness, or dissatisfaction. When the desire for change goes unmet, it can lead to greater dissatisfaction or even a reevaluation of the relationship itself. Women who feel unsupported in their pursuit of new experiences may question whether they can truly grow within the boundaries of a partnership that no longer aligns with their evolving needs. In some cases, this tension can result in a deeper exploration of personal boundaries, relationships, and the pursuit of self-realization. Ultimately, the desire for change and new experiences can be a powerful catalyst for growth, but it requires understanding, communication, and support from both partners to ensure the relationship evolves alongside the personal transformations that come with aging. So, as we've explored together, the changes in long-term relationships are often rooted in practical challenges, shifting expectations, emotional disconnection, unresolved conflict, and personal growth.